Bonnet family, what's going on? It's an ML Sports Take brought to you by St. Bonaventure University's online Masters in Journalism. Get started today. Become a Bonnie at sbujournalism.com. And a tip of the cap thank you as well to Camillus Golf Club and Stumble and Monkey Brewing Company. The Bonnies rolled Dayton 75-53. And, you know, look, I was... first of all, stunned. I didn't think blowout was in the cards for sure, especially the way that they were playing, but they were due to win. I think that's number one. Number two is sometimes you roll the ball out and you just can't hit anything. Home, road, somewhere in between. You play basketball on the moon, you just can't hit anything. And other nights you roll the ball out and you just make it. You make shots, you feel good, the ball's coming off the hand, it's spinning, it's going. That was what happened last night. It's just the bottom line. I mean, they were just making shots right from the get-go. And for everything that we've talked about in terms of when they've lost games this year and had these piss-poor possessions and throwing it down to Brown when they shouldn't, you know, not reading weak side help onto him, bad turnovers at the top, throwing the ball away on the baseline, whatever the case may be with bad offensive possessions, not rotating, you know, missing chippies, and then the other end, not guarding the three or not, you know, getting some defense to turn it into some offensive transition. Well, the opposite happened last night, right? I mean, you get some pressure D. They were relentless on Dayton. They didn't allow a lot of things to happen whatsoever. Now, Dayton still made 8 3-pointers, but that had to do with more, in my opinion. They shot 24 of them. You know, Dayton got to the free throw line 7 times. They were brutal there. Bonaventure destroyed Dayton on the boards. You know, by 9. It was just an efficient all-around crush job. But I think when you start the game just banging shots in, one after another, three after three after, this is not a three-point shooting team, but they were chucking them and they were making them. And I thought it was a tremendous just feel game for this team, right? I mean, it's sometimes when you're stinking, you just go out and you're like, oh, look at this. You know, it's like you go out in golf and you shoot like 5 to 8 strokes worse every single time, and you can't get out of the yips, and you can't get out of missing putts, and you can't get out of penalty shots. And all of a sudden, like the first 5 or 6 holes on one round, let's say you take a week off, you go out and play, and you hit like your first 4 or 5 par putts. I mean, that's what kind of this was like last night. So I thought the shot making was really where it started. Melvin Council Jr. had a Melvin Council Jr. game, which we saw, you know, happen a ways back. Dayton was kind of bringing some different defensive packages on him, but I thought he was able to bust through some double teams. He was able to bust through tightly guarded one-on-one situations. I thought he got the ball, passed it, and moved quick. I think that's what Council, I think it's kind of there. The tape that's out there with Council is, you know, you frustrate him, get him up and all the rest, and don't allow him to get the ball right back. I think the Bonnies, when he can pass it and move really fast right after that, and he gets moving quite a bit, and without the ball, getting the ball back really seems to be, I think, maybe a recipe for success here. And he had 7 assists, 5 rebounds to go along with 18 points. So he was fantastic across the board. We know about Jones, my God. I mean, he shot 10 3-pointers. He made 6. And he crashed the glass. All of them crashed the glass. I mean, Moore, Council, Hinton, all these guys crashed the glass. And frankly, even so did Balagna and Wedlow. I mean, they had 6 rebounds combined. And even when they didn't get it, they were very active on the board. So, you know, solid enough from the free throw line. Again, it was a 22-point win. I mean, this game was over. It wasn't quite over at halftime. It was only a 7-point game. You know, in the beginning of the game, it was like shot after shot after shot after shot. The Bonnies kept making them, you know, over and over again. I mean, Hinton starts it with the 3, and then they just keep chucking him and chucking him and chucking him. And Jones making all those threes. He was on fire, you know, right from the get-go. And you take the lead by 7. I thought it could have actually been more. At the half, I thought the Bonnies could have easily been up by 12-13. I mean, you take the 7-point lead. And then in the second half, it was like more of the same. I mean, right after the 3 by Bennett, Jones answers, and then Brown makes a jumper, and then another jumper, and then Council makes a jumper, and the Bonnies are getting buckets right in a row, and Dayton can't score, and they're going back and forth until like the 13:46 mark until we saw another basket, believe it or not. Both teams froze from 16:28 until the 13:46 mark in terms of baskets. There was a Dayton free throw by Jack in there at the 14:15 mark. Bologna gets fouled on 3. He makes all 3 of them. Jones comes in, makes a jumper, and by the time that all happened, I didn't even realize they were up by that many points because there was a chunk there. There wasn't any scoring, and all of a sudden the Bonnies are up by 17, and they were in complete control from there. So, shot making in the beginning, ferocious defense. You put the shot making with the ferocious defense. You eliminate second chances on the other side. You go back, the other way, and you're just efficient across the board. Dayton did not have a great shooting night. I thought they did a great job on Santos. Dayton played a bunch of guys off the bench. Nobody really did anything outside of Jack. He gave him 9 points. And it was just an efficient home game where the Bonnies, I think, were due to win. They get their 16th win on the season. They're 4-5 still in conference, so you kind of try to see what happens on the other side. But as many people know, the regular season at this point is kind of what it is. I mean, Bonaventure, even with this recent slump and how upset you can get over it, you still have to look at it and go, well, the reality of college basketball is this team could go through this schedule and only lose 3 games and they would still be on the bubble. And so, what do you have to do? Go undefeated? You have to schedule. I've been hearing people like, oh, well, you got to schedule 4 or 5 Power 5 teams. Well, at that point, what do? You're going to go 1-4, 4-1, 3-2, 2-2. I don't know what they're going to go. They're not going to go 5-0. I'm not saying they go 0-5, but you have to go 4-1 or 3-2. Maybe isn't even good enough in that position. Then you schedule a softer deal here this year, and you got to run the table, which they did in the beginning. You get into A10 play, you're going to lose a couple of games. You have a bad loss to LaSalle. You're not going to be an at-large team unless something crazy happens where you book 3 or 4 Power 5, like top 30, 40 teams. You go undefeated against them, and maybe you only lose 1, and then you have 1 or 2 A10 losses, and you have like a record that maybe has only 3 losses, but it's that kind of schedule. In this kind of schedule, you lose 3 games, and you're basically on the bubble. I mean, I don't know what this team or program or I don't know what the idea is here. It's the reality of it. It's not. I'm not being negative. I'm not poo-pooing anybody. I'm not demeaning anybody. It's just how the cookie crumbles, unfortunately, in college basketball. But in terms of where they were with the losing streak, getting into this game against Dayton, the home crowd, the RC, I didn't think that the students were that loud again. And, it was a game where they were just efficient, really, on both sides of the floor. And I think, really, the tone was set with the shot making in the beginning of the game and certain defensive packages against Dayton, creating some turnovers, which really helped, in spots. I mean, Dayton only had 7 turnovers. The Bonnies had 6, but, in spots. And then everything else kind of flowed after the shot making and the tone setting, I thought, really in both halves. I mean, the Bonnies set the tone in the first half with the shot making, and then in the second half until both teams went dry, and then they kind of reset the tone again, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10-minute-ish marks, and then they just ran away. After they were up 17, that did it. 75-53, the Bonnies again moved to 4-5 in the A10, 16-6 overall, and they will have a game up next here against Fordham on Saturday at 12:30. Mike Lindsley with you here. It's an ML Sports Take. Hats off, by the way, to Howard Simon, who did a great job on the color last night. On the telecast. Really enjoyed that. I've had Howard on my show a bunch of times. I interned at Empire Sports when he was at WNSA, and he's a legend in the business, somebody I've looked up to for a long time, and I thought he did a really good job on the color commentating. ML Sports Take brought to you by Batavia Downs Gaming, Western OTB, and St. Bonaventure University's online masters in journalism. Log on to sbujournalism.com and get started today. Become a Bonnie right now at sbujournalism.com. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.